I'm being joined on the program by the chairman of the Civil Society Coalition Against Corruption, Mr. Suraj, is in our Lagos studio here. And in our Abuja studio is the lawyer, Mr. Ogboji. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Tim, for
Mr. Suraj, let's begin the conversation. Your group is one of the groups that laid accusation and written to the president to say, Mr. Malami, because that's the latest that we have seen and heard about Mr. Magu, and we also understand that the sitting, the 45-day tenure sitting of the investigative panel is to elapse this week. Why are you asking the president to probe Mr. Malami?
Oh, thank you, Jim. I think it's obvious that Nigerians have seen over the period of the last more than 45 days that some of those allegations under which the Justice Ayo Salami retired panel was set up, which actually emanated from the so-called memo from the Attorney General to the President, are not being substantiated. And we can see very clearly how the panel has conducted itself. The complaint by Magu that none of even the allegations have been served on him is not also been there to also sit in and also even see and interrogate some of those that were invited by the panel. Some of those standing trial under EFCC, invited to testify either against EFCC or against Magu. The point is very clear for quite a number of us. We would like to see that allegation against Magu investigated properly. And if he's indicted, prosecuted, and if he's free and exonerated, allowed to go. And those that are behind the allegations also need to answer for some of the things that they've done. And one of the things that is clear, you can go down the memory lane. We had this experience with Nuhu Ribadu and Ahodo Anka. We had the same similar experience, even with Lamode and Farida Waziri and Mohamed Aduke as the Attorney General. It's the same thing that is actually playing itself out. And for us, it is not going to be sufficient for Attorney Generals to attempt, especially with the EFCC. Now you've seen about 12 officers of the EFCC suspended by also the office of the attorney, not the EFCC, from the office of the Attorney General, suspending those key officers of the EFCC, and including the secretary, under the EFCC Act and the law. The Attorney General does not even have the power to suspend the Secretary of the Commission because he was appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. All those suspended were never interrogated or even served with any query. So it is obvious that there was an attack on the EFCC, and that was why we've actually gone further to say we want the panel to continue with the investigation. We want that to be exhausted. And since the spokesperson for the president already came out to say there's going to be a change in the system, all allegations will not be allowed to be swept under the carpet. So civil society organizations actually wrote and addressed the press conference last year, immediately after the election, that the president won the election, warning the president against the appointment of Mr. Abubakar Malami SAN as the Attorney General, based on several of some of these allegations of interfering with the anti-corruption process, some of the corruption allegations, and also abuse of office by granting some leave to some of those that are considered.
Mr. Suraj, let's take a breather. When we come back, I will allow Mr. Ogboji to weigh in on the matter, and we will debate on some of the issues that are going on with Mr. Malami, Mr. Magu, and the way things are being handled under the Buhari government. Decides who wants to fight corruption, we assess how far. Don't go away, anyone. Up next, more on the lingering probe of Mr. Ibrahim Magu, the allegations and the counter-allegations. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Suraj and Mr. Ogboji from our Abuja studio. Mr. Ogboji, let me give you the opportunity now to react to what Mr. Suraj has said. On the matter of Mr. Malami, there is a petition against him from civil society organization, and how things have gone in the probe against Mr. Magu.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sean. You also recall that from the very, very beginning, the allegation from Magu against Magu by the DSS, which is an office and establishment of the executive. Ordinarily, if that type of allegation had been properly proved, a character like Magu would have even sat as EFCC chairman. Note that on 2 different occasions, Magu's nomination was rejected by the Senate based on compelling reasons, allegations proven by the Department of State Security Service. So you should note that from the beginning. Yes, the civil society like the likes of Suraj might have written allegations against Magu. No problem. But how long did it take the presidency to now bring Magu to the fore after thorough investigation from the background before it is now taken to the Tribunal Inquiry Act headed by Justice Ayo Salami? So it's not a matter of saying, because now, the question I want to ask, before now, prior to the swearing of Magu as second tenor, what other allegations do you have against the Attorney General of the Federation for you now to come and say, because you have an allegation against the Attorney General of the Federation, this should not be done the way it ought to be done? When you give the instances of Farida Waziri, Nuhu Ribado before now, did the Senate at any point in time reject any of the nominees for this person as nominees of EFCC as EFCC chairman? No. From the very beginning, we had a character that had integrity issue. And before now, knowing who the president is takes his time to look at things before coming to the fore, has taken his time, and allegations are beyond more or less reasonable doubt. But to be very sure still, because let us look at things very clearly. To be very sure, Magu is not under trial. Magu is still under investigation. And under investigation by who? By no other person than a former president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Ayo Salami. Whatever you do, you must give it to him. That is thorough. His tenure is there for us to look at. And what are they doing? They are doing what they have set up to do. I heard Suraj talking about the proceedings is wrong, but look at Section 4, because when you talk about all those things, you also look at the law. What does Section 4 say? The real manner you want them to act is not their own business.
Section 4 of what?
Section 4 of the Tribunal Inquiry Act.
Okay,
Clearly stated.
Okay.
Unless the instrument otherwise prescribed, the tribunal may regulate its own proceedings. It is the tribunal now regulating its own proceedings and telling the world what you have to go about it. Now, in one hand, Suraj told the whole world that Magu does not know allegations against him. On the other hand, he told us now that the allegations have not been proven. You can't eat your cake and have it at the same time. You cannot approbate and reprobate at the same time. If there are no allegations, why would you say they have not been proven? They are allegations. And the allegation did not just emanate from Malamili. We should note that. From the very beginning of Magu's nomination by the presidency, this character called Magu had never been deemed worthy by not me, not you, Sean, not even Suraj, but by the Department of State Security. I know the efficacy of the Department of State Security. They have the mechanism and the personnel to do in-depth analysis about any other person.
Ogboji, just a moment.
Mr. Ogboji,
let me...
would Magu have been the chairman?
Since you touched on the sitting... apologies, please. Since you touched on the sitting and the manner of sitting of the presidential probe panel, let me read an extract from the letter the president transmitted to set up the Judicial Commission, the panel. And I quote a part of the letter of the president. The president said, I hereby direct the Judicial Commission to submit its interim reports to me from time to time, but the Judicial Commission shall in any case submit its final report not later than 45 days from the date of its first public sitting or within such extended period as may be authorized by me in writing, end of quote. That's the president asking that the panel should say it publicly. Are you saying this does not matter, that what the president ordered them does not really matter?
You know, that is the president saying, by virtue of Section 1, giving enabling act to the establishment of the committee. He ends there. Now, the parts of the committee are circumscribed in the Constitution, in the Tribunal Inquiry Act. And it says, even if you say public, look at Section 1 of the Tribunal Inquiry Act. What did it say? It says, provided that if the inquiry is to be held in public, the tribunal shall have the power in its absolute discretion to admit or exclude the public or any member of the public or the press from any meeting of the tribunal. This is the law. If the tribunal needs wisdom, show me I don't know the intricacies and the manner of things involved. We're talking about state funds being alleged to have been filtered out. We're talking about recover assets of the federation being relooted, in quote, by the likes of Magu. We are talking about other sensitive information that might not necessarily come to the fore. The tribunal have raw evidence within themselves. And if in their wisdom, empowered and supported by the law,
let me allow Mr. Suraj,
Mr. don't want public
Mr. Ogboji.
You cannot force it because the law is clear on that. And they have the right to say, don't come and sit with us for now.
The portion of the law that you quoted, let me allow Mr. Suraj to react to it. The law isn't in sacrosanct, Mr. Suraj.
No, actually, what he quoted is just like he actually approbating and reprobating, which is exactly what he said. The instrument said, the law says, except where the instrument did not state otherwise. That is where the panel will have the power to decide either he wants to sit
The instrument, which is the letter of the president?
Yes, and that is the instrument setting up the panel, and that is the law. That is the basis upon which the panel is sitting.
But the law
and that
also
is why
emphasized the discretion of the panel.
no. It said in the absence where that instrument setting up the panel is not set in stone. So that is why the president also put it there, sit in public. If it is to have his own discretion, he wouldn't have said sit in public. He would have allowed it to take his own instrument. And that is the law. It even says 45 days. You can't go outside the 45 days except with the approval of that body that is setting up the panel. So you can't take a decision.
What is your grievance with the Justice Salami panel?
Absolutely. And the first thing that I've said, even and some of us at the civil society, we had very unimpeachable initial trust in the capacity of Justice Ayo Salami to actually deal with these issues and through the panel. But unfortunately, from all that we've seen from the beginning, without even seeing the instrument, you will know that the instrument came to public knowledge 35 days after the panel has started sitting. That is number one. Number two, nobody even knows about the panel. We don't have the allegation. The suspect himself came out. I have not even seen the allegations and charges against me, even if it's going to be read to him.
It might be for security reasons why some of these things.
Then you can't accuse anybody. Then you can't even put him under investigation. If you are investigating, then he must know for what you are investigating him. It is beyond either you're talking about security. You might not make it public, but the suspect must be able to have it. And I should correct an impression. We can't pretend to suffer amnesia, collective amnesia. When Magu was accused by the DSS, remember there were 2 letters that were written by the same DSS on the same date, signed by the same person. One was written to the special advisor to the president on Senate and saying Magu was fit and proper to be confirmed as the EFCC chairman. The second was written to the National Assembly. The president set up a small committee headed by the same Attorney General to investigate those allegations that were contained in the letter sent to the National Assembly. And that committee, headed by the same Attorney General, Mr. Abubakar Malami, cleared Magu of those allegations.
But this is the same AGF that you raised an allegation, very strong allegations that is standing in the way of high-profile crimes.
Precisely, and we listed all the. It's not just an open bogus allegation. We listed instances. The most recent one was the one with the Code of Conduct Bureau. There was a petition against Senator Dino Melaye breaching the Constitution, not even any law. It was investigated by Code of Conduct.
So what do you want the president to do on this matter?
No, the president has to also, like he's done to Magu, investigate all the allegations against all the public office holders that are there in his cabinet.
Mr. Ogboji, please react to some of these issues that have been raised.
Now, it's as simple as I said. Before they let us make things very clear. We are on national television and the law is the law. The law did not give any room for any exception to say that unless the president says the president did not give exceptions for them to sit in public. Please, Cheryl, listen to me carefully. I'm not reading out of any place. The law, section 1 said, provided if the inquiry is to be held in public, the tribunal shall have the power in this absolute discretion to admit or to exclude the public from sitting in their tribunal. It is clear. It is the law. So even if the president says so, and what the president did, the letter you just read, by virtue of section 1, the president has the power to set up this tribunal. But the sittings and the manner they go about their business is within their entire discretion. And that's why section 1 clearly said this out, that they might have the discretion, even if they are supposed to sit in public. Not something very fundamental. Let us know something very fundamental. This is an investigative panel. It's an investigative tribunal. Magu is not on that trial. There's a petition, there's a memo raised by no less a person than the Attorney General of the Federation that these allegations against a public officer. The president cannot just act on the allegation profiled forward by the Attorney General of the Federation. The president now have, based on the powers vested in him, set up this tribunal to sieve what is right or wrong. If Magu is guilty, good and fine, necessary applications, necessary procedures will be taken to prosecute him. But if it's not, good and fine, the necessary procedures will be dealt with. Now, my friend in Lagos now said a small committee was set up and he was suggested by the Attorney General of the Federation. Good and fine. At any point in time, if relevant facts that are supposed to be at your disposal are not at your disposal, there are certain things you will do that are not even going to be complied. That's why at times, the decision in court, you say, we'll reach by quorum because certain actions, certain facts were not at the disposal of the person at that point in time. We should rather commend that to the general that after sitting in office and other valuable information have come before him and he has seen it, there is no need to shield. There is no need to come and say, because I've done a report before,
we're out of time.
This man, I cannot go ahead to bring out this fact to the fore. So we should rather commend him for having the balls to say, this is what I discovered subsequently that have substance, and it is appropriate for the president to take action to deal with Magu, as the case may be.
Mr. Godwin Ogboji, thank you there. Mr. Larry Suraj, many thanks for coming tonight.
Always my pleasure.